Gonna do it again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Magic is Real, the podcast where we talk about near-death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, and all things metaphysical and spiritual. I'm your host, Shannon, and today I have with me Katie Simplot, who is a multidimensional healer. But how did she get here? She experienced a near-death experience and found it very difficult to reintegrate into this world after her near-death experience, which she will talk about with us. And through having to sort of find peace within being back in this world, she found healing modalities that really worked for her, such as reiki, meditation, and prayer. And now she's helping other people heal. So I am really excited to hear her story and her insights. Thank you so much, Katie Simplot, for being
Thank
here with
you.
us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Um,
Yeah, so tell me your story. What happened?
so I guess I'll just start from the accident, from when the night my car accident happened in the near death. It was 1999. I was 19 years old, so this is years ago. But I was driving home and was in this car accident. I hit a tree going 60 miles an hour, and I don't remember the accident or anything, but all I remember is looking down and seeing the ambulance in my car in the scene. And I just remember the ambulance was cutting my clothes off me because they were going to revive me, bring me back. I guess my heart stopped, so they were going to bring me back. The next thing I remember was being in the hospital, but I wasn't in the hospital. I was watching them work on me in the hospital. They were bringing me back again. I guess my heart had stopped again, so they were bringing me back. So all I remember is being in the hallway of the hospital and like watching through the glass as they're and this white sheet, because I was in the room, but I could see them, restarting my heart again. So the next thing I remember, I was my in the arms of my aunt. My aunt had passed away when I was, I think, 16 years old, and I was on the other side. I didn't know was on the other side. All I remember was I was the tunnel. Everything they say about seeing a tunnel, the light. It was this dark tunnel with this beautiful light, and my aunt was carrying me out of the light. She wouldn't let me go any further. She just had me in her arms and she was walking me out of it. And then she takes me over to this bench and sits down, and my grandfather shows up. And my grandfather, I was really close to. I lost him when I was 12 years old. So it was like a two significant people in my life that, you know, I, you know, would have been there for me if something like this happened. So they were there and they just kept telling me that they weren't saying that I wasn't allowed to go back. They kept telling me to smile big. And I just remember being surrounded by just the love and just knowing I was in her arms. I didn't know what had really gone on or happened. Like hear other people say, I knew I was dead. I knew I had passed, but no, I didn't have that. So she just kept telling me to smile. And I was like, why do you want me to smile? So I was smiling, and the next thing I remember was my face, like the sensation on my face coming back. And I was literally back in this world. They were wanting me to smile for my parents, to tell my parents I was okay. And my parents were on the other side. I guess from what I was told was my blood pressure had dropped to 14 beats a minute. So they were saying goodbye to me. So as they were saying goodbye to me, they were telling me to smile, to smile. So when I came back, I woke up and they're like, you were just smiling. You're like, all of a sudden your vitals were coming back and you're smiling. So I just remember being in the hospital then, and uh, it was just kind of in and out the next couple of days because I had severed my liver, broke a lot of my ribs, multiple abrasions and stuff all over my body. Um, and when I was in the hospital and I could finally like get ready to take a shower, my mom was helping me, and she's like, "You saw Aunt Chrissy, right?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Yeah," and she's like, described everything that I had seen. I said, how did you know that? And I said, how did you know that? And she goes, I dreamt about it 2 weeks ago. So she had gotten this. People who don't know, my mom's a psychic medium also. So, but we didn't know this back when we were growing up. We had no clue my mom was a medium, but makes sense because we never got away with anything. But so
Yeah.
she was the person who really helped me try to grasp what had happened after the accident and get my bearings on things, but she had seen everything, and she was told not to tell me, because as much as she would have wanted to tell me, don't do this or don't do that or be careful or something, I was in a state where I was 19. I was doing what I wanted to do. You weren't going to tell me what to do, So it's not like whatever she said would have stopped me from going out that night, or driving home that night. So there was nothing said. But after that, it was just a long period of healing my liver, having to take things slow, but then the whole process of figuring out what had happened, and not understanding what this feeling was, because I came back and nothing was the same. My friends weren't the same. I didn't resonate with life the same. As much as I wanted to be with my friends, there was this disconnect now, and I didn't understand that. But I had gotten certified in Reiki when I was 15. So I was always involved in that spiritual realm in a sense, but I wish I had known my mother was a medium then, but hey, so I had a connection. I had a place I could go to. So I would always go to get Reiki done. And in the center, it was just so peaceful. And I was just like, I felt like I was home there, because it felt like that feeling of when I had passed, like I just needed comfort. And it was just a long road after that. After we had my accident, we had moved to New Jersey. It was like my accident, and then moved to New Jersey, and we were living in Pennsylvania at the time when I had the accident. And we ended up having our house burned down 6 months after we moved there. And then 6 months after that, when we were waiting for our house to get rebuilt, I remember waking up and just being in this total depression. And we just lost the house. I just had this accident. We just moved. Like, all this stuff had been going on, this whirlwind. And I just was like, I don't understand how you keep going, because my mom always had this, she just did things. And I was so depressed. And she's like, well, you just have to keep going. You just have to keep picking up the pieces. And it kind of opened this window for me to, all right, I got to keep moving. I got to understand what I'm feeling right now, because I feel so disconnected from the world. I'm so angry that they sent me back. Why did you send me back here when it was so beautiful over there? And then I started getting the people who had passed show up in my room at night, and I'd be like, what's happening? Like, I didn't understand it. And my mom's like, well, they're trying to reach you. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to be reached. Like, it freaked me out. I was like, I don't want to talk to you guys. So I did go into this really dark period for about 15 years. Like, it was a long time. And through that process, of course, I was living life. I was doing things. I moved out to California. I was doing things, but I always had this underlying sadness of not understanding when it would get better, and why did you still take me? And one day I had started having a seizure disorder when I was 28 years old. And so fast forward 15 years later, well, after the seizure disorder, I mean, after 15 years after the depression, during that period of time, I had a really bad seizure. And I remember looking down at the scene of where my mom was trying to take care of me, because we were at this nursery picking out flowers, and it had happened there. And I just remember hearing, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? Like, I was being given a chance, an opportunity. What do you want to do? What's your choice this time? Because when you have these seizures like this, you're in limbo between heaven and earth, because you don't know if your body's going to click back on. You don't know if you're going to reboot during a seizure. So I remember looking down at my mom and seeing the scene and being like, oh my gosh, I was like, my mom needs me. Then I, like, all of a sudden everything got clear about why I couldn't leave and I had to be here. And I was like, my niece needs me. I'm actually, there's value in my life. I didn't realize there was value in the fact that I was here. So I was like, no, I want to stay. I want to stay. So the next thing I remember, I was waking up in the hospital and they were putting 11 staples in my head, because I had fallen and, cracked my head open. But I was like, I remember waking up and going like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to make sure I figure out what I need to do to make sure I create a space that feels like home, like the other side, because I know that they gave me the ability to communicate with them. It was just about making that space to have that connection. So um, that's when things started to really open up more too. Trying to think now. So that happened. And then about I want to say 3 years later is when I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. So I was at home and literally going through like a tower moment of life. Like all this stuff had happened. I'm going through this tower moment, but I always knew that there was always a light at the end of the tunnel. Symbolic, I guess.
Really? Yeah.
And so that's when I created Everything Aligns, my Instagram page. And I was like, oh, and I didn't do it out of I did it because I was just bored and I was like, let me just like I used it Instagram as a pin. I was still new to social media. I just did it because I was bored. I was like, oh, I'll just repost this and save it for later so I can go back and look at it. And the page started growing. I'm like, I didn't do it for the page to grow. And it just kept growing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's up with this? So I just figured it got to a point where it's like 50,000, then 100,000. I was like, I got to do something about this now. It was almost like God's like, here, you said you're ready, like let's build something together, so it just kept growing from there. And I guess I started picking up my healings again with the reiki and taking on clients and moving in that direction. That's kind of
Yeah.
where at now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was a long journey. You talked about after it was so beautiful there, why would you want to come back here? And to me that indicates because the way you describe it is, it relatively like sort of a quick moment, although I don't, it probably felt to you like forever. Um,
Right.
but it's more about the feeling, right? Because
Hmm.
it's you cross over and you meet your loved ones, which is amazing. Like that's a special, beautiful, life-affirming thing. But can you describe what it was about the actual feeling that you felt
uh
when you were there?
it was this love, and there's no judgment, there's no pain, there's no sadness, it's just you're just in this. It's undescribable. I don't know. I wish I could have one word to describe it, but it's just peace. It's just peace, acceptance. It's all of that. So it's like to walk around and I'm not, it was just bliss. It was just bliss to just to be there. So to come back and have in the the frequency of it, the love, the colors, the vibrancy of it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's hard to come back into a dense world after that. So I want to kind of get into a bit more about how you found that kind of peace. So what were I know it might not have been anything totally organized in terms of intentional, I'm going to meditate and this will make me feel better, but I know it's a discovery, at least for most
Yeah.
people. So what would you say when something clicked, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to feel that sense of peace again. What was that healing process for you? I know some of it's discovery, trial and error, and all of that stuff, but I
Right.
just kind of want to hear about that because I think meditation, I'm a big fan of it. And like you said, Reiki and also prayer. Can you talk more about that and what that looked like for you?
For me, it was, it's starting to recognize that I can make choices. Like I didn't have to be this. I started to realize how much my life I did things to make other people happy, and it was like almost like, oh my gosh, I get to do this different. Like I get to make this choice, I get to, say no to this. I actually don't like this. I actually do like this, just things that I just kept saying yes to in my life that went against what my soul was really saying. So it was like literally just taking back your own power that you didn't realize that you had given away so much of. And I think a lot of people do that. And when you can finally be comfortable with yourself and be like, no, I don't want to do that. Or, even just saying no to things that give your energy away. It's not being rude to do that. It's giving yourself that love back. So why would I want to go somewhere and do something that's going to expend my energy if I'm really not 100% into it? Whereas if I'm sitting at home, I'd rather be more comfortable here, just little things like that people give their energy away to because they feel out of obligation when you just don't obligate yourself first, keep yourself in line. I don't just nurture yourself first is what it was. So
Yeah.
I just started to do that and I started to realize the things that I was inviting in my life were more positive, versus things that I, used to do before, where I just started to create a safer space for myself, is what it was.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's so important because in this world that we call Earth,
yeah,
we don't have control over anything but how we respond to things. We don't have control over um, anything but our own self-care because no one can take care of us the way that we can.
right.
Unless you argue, well, God source, and but to me, we are God and source. Like we
Yes,
are God, so it's basically God taking care of, it's still God taking care of us if you want to look at it that way. And it doesn't mean cut people off and cut off relationships because
right.
they're going to hurt you or but it is about learning to self-soothe and to find that peace even when there's chaos around you.
Yes, right.
Yeah, how do you, and I'd love to know how you work with your clients, which we're going to talk about. I also would love to know now. It's still been a long time since your NDE, but I think an NDE isn't just the one thing. It's a lifelong experience.
It is because you never forget it. That feeling of being there never leaves you. So every single day I feel it, and every single day I remember it. And people used to be like, "Aren't you over it?" I'm like, "It never leaves you. There's no way to." Yeah, I moved past the pain of what I felt before. I don't carry that sadness anymore. I don't carry all that, but it never leaves you. You still have you had one because you seem
I
very
haven't had
knowledgeable.
one, but I am a psychic medium. So
Okay, okay,
that's the extent of, yeah.
yeah. So you see the other side. Yeah, you know the other side.
In a
Yeah,
sense, but I don't obviously know what it feels like exactly to
yeah.
be in that state. But I do know how it feels to be present and centered and peaceful after a life of not feeling that way,
Right. Exactly.
never
Yeah.
feeling safe, never. And that's
Right.
because of spiritual awakening and 12-step recovery. But I
Yes.
would equate that in a sense to that was my tower moment. Like going into a
Mhm.
12-step program for sex and love addiction is a tower moment where you're like, I
Yes.
don't have control. I'm sobbing and not wanting to be here all the time. I've
Right.
reached a point where this is no longer manageable. And
Right.
now, after doing that work and finding that it does work, that
Yeah.
healing work, wow, what a like cut to 20 years later, and I'm just a totally different person. And now I feel that sense of peace I always, obviously, I'm a human. I need a little,
Right.
I need some extra support, but
Yeah.
I think that obviously, even if you've had an NDE, you're not going to be impervious to life stressors. They're still there.
Right.
But how do you look at them now? Do you still look at them in the same way? Life's challenges, I mean. And how do you look at these things that come into our path that we really just don't have control over, like external events that happen and tragedies that happen and stress that happens and our, financial structure or economic structure. How do you see those
Right.
things in light of what you've experienced?
I still view things as there's always a silver lining, I guess. And I don't, I always look at things too as if I'm upset, how long does it take me? How much quicker does it take me to bounce back now from being upset from something or in an emotional state? I recover quicker from things. So it's not a full blown I'm going to waste a week being mad about something or stressed. I really try
Right.
to regroup and organize and come back to reality and stay in the moment versus let my head explode and go into all the worry and the what ifs, and what that chaos can bring.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear what you do in terms of your services. How do you help other people through this type of healing, and what abilities I want to say, what superpowers do you use? But what does it look like a session? I know you'll probably say every client's different because of their own individual needs, but how do you work with the energies to help them heal themselves?
So with my thing is when I do Reiki on someone, I'm gonna go off track a little bit. So people are always like, "Oh, do you do psychic readings?" No, yes, I'm a psychic medium. Yes, I get the access to them, but do I do one-on-one readings? No, I don't because I'm not comfortable doing a one-on-one reading. That's not my forte, really. But it's not that I People who do psychic readings are very skilled in it. You have to practice that. And I am stretched. I have a 5-year-old son. I have, like I am running all over the place. So yes, at some point, I'm sure I will do readings, but people don't realize the amount of work and it takes to hone in on that and practice to make sure you're right,
Yes.
So I don't
Years
want to
and
be
years and years for me anyway. I know,
it's right
of training and practice and trial and error.
training.
Even sometimes, and it's not a perfect science sometimes, and that's
E-
frustrating because,
Exactly.
and I'll just give that example and then let you continue. But I was just telling people, I'm like, I just had the most amazing group reading. I just did the most incredible reading. Now I've had like 5 solid readings in a row. I've been doing this for years, but where I'm
Yeah.
I think I've nailed this. Like, I think now I feel confident. I feel like I could go up in front of a like a whole audience and do a thing and be confident that spirit would do their job and I wouldn't flop. And then I have just 2 back-to-back readings that are just tough, that I don't,
Right.
there are some blocks there, but
Mhm.
also I don't know whose, mine, theirs. I
It
don't
could be theirs.
It could be
Exactly.
my, I have no
Mhm.
idea, and it's not a perfect science. And in those cases, I have had to say, you know what, I'm sorry. Here's a refund because and I hate that. It's not a
Right.
perfect science, so I understand why you'd be sometimes hesitant because I don't know what's about to happen, and
Right.
sometimes everything happens, and sometimes nothing does, and
Right.
so I can see why you'd feel more comfortable relying on. I know I can harness these energies to help heal people, and
Right.
it's never going to sort of go off the rails or off track.
And yeah, until I feel like I'm in a space where I can hone in on that and have the space and time to create that, I know I'll be great. But right now, I just like to focus on the Reiki. So if I have a client and the Reiki comes, yes, you get messages that come through. Yes, when you're in that energy, you can direct them and guide them and see what's happening and see what So that's totally fine by me. But when it's like a sit down one-on-one reading per se or cards, I that's not what I do. But my mom, on the other hand, who's a psychic medium, has no problem. We're in a grocery store and somebody comes through and she's like, oh, I got to go tell the fish lady that their mother's here. You know what I mean? Like, so
Mhm.
she's really great at doing that. But me, I see them and yeah, so that's just how I work with that. But yeah, so when I do have my Reiki clients, you connect with the energy. Um, and whatever comes up. I just tend to tell them what I see in their chakras. I tend to see like patterns or um, what's it called? Or objects sometimes, like if there's a mess, my a client I had the other day on the mind, I saw there was just like this goop, and I was like, this has been there for so long. It's not, I could tell it's not like a disease or anything like that. I knew that, but it was like, this is something that's been with you, an emotion that's been with you for so long. And then I'm getting so nauseous as I'm going through it. And I brought it up and I said, you have something that's been on your mind since the time you were little. Like you have got to good thing is that light was shown on it, and then the conversation came up and yes, this is wearing on me. I said, I knew it had to do with a mother wound and all this. So it was great. But that connection, like I'm not sure how to explain how that happens, but when you're able to bring that light to them to see that, wow, you saw something in them, it's like they need you to, them being seen in a way that nobody else can see. It's like, when you're in a trauma response and you just wish somebody would ask you if you're feeling okay today, like something like that. They don't realize that. And then when you bring it to their attention, they're like, oh my gosh. And that's the healing part is being seen. So that's what
Right.
I love about Reiki when I do it is I feel like it sheds light on the parts that they're least expecting you're gonna see and you see it.
Yeah, I'm a Reiki master also. I don't practice it professionally. Simply, it's the same kind of reason. I'm just not
See, it's yeah,
called to. Yeah, it's just like
yeah,
there are certain things I enjoy about the mediumship process, which is
right,
I have immediate, well, and you do too. And but for me, it's like I have immediate validation. I know it's happening. I can guarantee that it's flowing. And the other one is for me takes a leap of faith, kind of to say, I know that what I'm doing is working. I know. So I'd love but I love that because I think Reiki, like you just said, I mean, it actually is using your psychic and mediumistic
hmm
abilities. It is intuitive and it
yeah,
isn't just harnessing, laying hands, if you will. It's also
yes,
down, you are getting messages from spirit, which is why I
yes,
took the course to
Yes.
strengthen that. But I would love to know this too about Reiki, because when we talk about, we're not doing the healing. We're like intending, we're sort of
Yeah.
sending the energy to this
Yes.
person so that they can heal themselves. So how do we do that? What is the process of harnessing? Is it simply intention? And how do you know, how do you personally, this is just how do you feel like you know when you're kind of,
In
when
it.
it's flowing in it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I say a prayer when I start, and you can start to feel the energy
Yeah.
around you shift. And it's hard to say this to get people who don't know, I wish I could make them feel this, but I say the prayer and I have my eyes shut and I just kind of like go into the chakras and I'm just like, okay, drop in. I always say, drop in, take me to where you need me to go. And then like, I can feel my energy just go deeper, like into it. So it just takes me to where it needs to go. But yes, I'm not healing. I'm just the vessel, so that's and I always picture Jesus's hands. I do that because it's like that's the light that's coming. Like it's just I'm not sure how to explain the divinity that goes on with it, but it is just so divine.
Right.
Magic is real.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And with Reiki, it can heal not just physical ailments, but also it's also a process of healing psychological wounds as well.
right. Yes, and even with my years of therapy, like I was in therapy for years. I'm so blessed to have the same therapist I know since I was 15, but
Oh,
it was there was a time where I said I have to leave talk therapy because I need to go back to my roots because my roots were the Reiki hits in a spot that you don't seem to get to in a talk therapy session, It's just interesting. And so when people are saying, oh, that's, I've even had therapists who say that's just not how it does. Well, have you tried it yet? Like, don't knock it till you try it because when you try it, there's something you can't explain that happens that brings something to the surface and you're going to be like, I would not have made that connection if I hadn't done the Reiki session versus, you know, I don't
right.
know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. As a near-death experiencer, and I know you've been back
Yeah,
for quite a long time. I would, and you do have these sort of new abilities. Back in the day, you didn't want them. You wanted to cut
right.
off contact with the other, with spirit or whatever, because it is kind of, it can feel maybe scary or intrusive, and you didn't know what to do with it. Now, have you allowed that in, and how do you go through the world? Being conscious of these abilities, and how often would you say that you really notice it? Because for me, I still live a normal life. It's just that once in a
Yeah.
while spirit taps me on the shoulder and says there's somebody over there you got to talk to, or um,
Yes.
I hear a little message, or I start to feel tingles and I'm like, all right, I know you want me to talk to someone for you. Who are you sending this message to? But it's not really something on a daily basis that I constantly am hearing, seeing things.
Right. I'm constantly connected to, I don't make a move unless like uh, a personal move. Like I'm always waiting for the nudge to, with business wise or certain things, So I do go throughout my day tapping in. Okay, is this the right move to do? Stuff like that. But no, it's not like every day I'm having a past person. I live in an apartment too, so if people who are live in apartments aren't aware of it, like you're around other energies. So I get people that pass through my apartment. They're not here, they've passed. And so sometimes I'll walk in my apartment like, okay, you have to go. This isn't your home. You have to go. I don't know who
Yeah,
they are, but I know that you don't belong here. So yeah, I get that random. Like, but you're right. It's not every day where you turn it off because I'm busy. I have stuff to do.
right. And that also can account for why mediumship readings can be inconsistent sometimes, because sometimes there's a really strong need and sometimes there isn't. And sometimes, for whatever reason, I always wonder too, like, is it the energies? Is it my energy plus the other person's energy? But I gave the strongest reading of my life on an airplane. And because the soul talked to me for 5 hours straight, clear as a bell. And the girl next to me, it was her mom. And we talked the entire time, and she's like, I feel like I just spent this whole flight with my mom. And she and I stayed in touch and we're still friends, but her mom had been a flight attendant
Oh,
and it was on a plane. And it's like, I sometimes wonder how, her mom just fit right in. That was where she always spent her time was on planes. And so I think it does sort of sometimes depend on like the time, the place, the need. Maybe, I don't know, maybe do you think it has to do sometimes with full moon energy, or is it just, I'm skeptical about that sometimes. I'm like, I think we can kind of connect anytime we want to connect. But there
oh,
are
I think so
people that
too.
believe certain times of year or like Halloween is
The
the
veil is
veil is
thin.
thinner, which I
Yeah.
don't know that I buy, but I just wonder what you think about that.
I think I'm on the same page as you because we can connect at any point, any time, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like that too. I don't necessarily think it's thinner in certain, I don't know, you know. I think it's such a everybody has their own belief in it. So I don't want to, you know. Uh
Yeah.
for it's funny because my friend who's home I'm at right now, so her father passed away years ago, and I want to say I think it's 8 years now. And funny story. So I was awake early one morning because I my son was like, I don't know, maybe one at the time, and I was on Pure, I forget what store it was, Pure One Imports or
Mhm.
something.
I
Give
used to
shout
do
outs.
I used to be the voiceover I did the voiceover for some of their commercials back in the
Are
day.
you serious? That's
Yes.
amazing. Maybe that's why the story's coming up. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the website and seeing this, just flipping through things, and I see this pig that's wearing this crown, and I'm going, and I hear buy that, and I go, why? And then her father is next to me. I go, you want me to buy this for Renee? And he goes, yes. And I was like, it's $110, and he was like, buy it. And I'm telling you, laughing to myself because I'm like, he's this person who's passed is telling me to buy this pig. Anyway, I buy the pig, I send it to her, and she gets it, and she's like, you don't understand. My dad, it had something to do with some conversation that her sister and them had just had about she was always the princess out of the three, you know, out of the girls and stuff. So it ended up being, it was just the timing. It was just really interesting how things come through like that. But yes, you get messages. All right, I'm going to buy this $110 pig for you. Don't ever lose it,
Right.
Renee. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
It didn't make sense to me, but it made sense to her when she got it. She knew, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I just had this conversation. Yeah.
After your near-death experience, what did you obviously this entire time, I mean, like what have you learned about the nature of existence? Why are we here in these bodies? And what do you think, yeah, what do you think we're doing here?
Oh,
Like, why aren't we
gosh.
there?
I don't know. I really don't know that. I wish you know, people, I feel like since, you know, the pressure to have this big page that I'm supposed to have all the answers, I really don't, you know, like there's so much more, there's so many more people out there who are more well versed in conversations like this than me. But I just feel like we're here clearly for a reason, to fulfill this mission. I mean, I just feel like, and the whole message I always get is just love and acceptance, to just make people feel welcome and loved. Because even through my depression and growing up, there was always a sadness I carried with me. So
Yeah.
if feel people who feel that sadness all the time, you're not alone. Like people, you're not alone. And I just wish I could hug every person that feels alone in moments, no matter what they're going through, whether it's at any point in their life, you know, after they lose someone, through addiction, through a loss, through anything, you know. I was one of those people that I feel had went through many chapters in life, you know, so it was, I don't know, it wasn't always
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. And I always end too with two things. One is if there's one thing you want people to know, if you just off the top of your head, what is it?
Your loved ones are watching you. They're there. You're not alone. They're still there. They're still there.
That's
And you're loved.
beautiful.
Yeah. Hmm. And
Thank
whatever you want them to see, they see it. And they do.
Right. Yeah. Anytime you think of them, anytime you speak of them, they know. Any
Definitely.
words that you feel were unspoken, they know.
Yeah.
Right. And then what I just wanted you to be able to share your website if you have anything you want to announce or just services that you're offering that I may not have mentioned, anything you want to share about what you're doing.
You know what? Right now, it's interesting with social media how there's so many changes. So right now, if people are looking to collaborate, please message me for collaborations because life is about algorithms now.
Yeah.
So and being seen. So definitely reach out if you need to. It's you can either email me hello@everythingaligns.com. That's the best way. My DMs get pretty full on everything.aligns on Instagram, but that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Keep
you.
Simplot. It has been such a pleasure having you today on Magic is Real. And viewers, listeners, if you like this episode, if you like this podcast, it would mean so much if you wouldn't mind just giving it a like or putting a loving comment below, even if it's just a quick emoji. Speaking of algorithms, it really helps support the channel and get the word out there that this podcast exists. Thank you so much for being here, and hope we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Shannon.